All right, welcome in everybody. Just going to take a second here to make sure everybody can hear me. If you could just say something in the chat just to double check. Going solo tonight. Chris couldn't make it, but all of his content's out there. Make sure you check out his sheet. Lots of great info if you're building tonight on there. And hit him up with any questions. I'm sure he'll get back to you. Will as well in the RotoPros Slack. So just hold on just a second, and I'm going to make sure everybody can hear me and get it. All right. Let's see here. So the tour this week's going to TPC Twin Cities in Minnesota. So it's a lot lesser field event, as I'm sure you can see, compared to especially what we had last week at the Memorial. Similar to last year's field, maybe a couple more top guys in there than what we had last year. Matthew Wolf won last year, beat Bryson DeChambeau and Morikawa in that event. In this event last year, it was the inaugural 3M Open last year, and we've seen tons of scoring, and I expect that we're going to see that again this week. I think it's another week similar to ones we've had prior to the Memorial at Muirfield, where you're going to have to make a bunch of birdies every day if you want to be in contention, if you want to pay off your DraftKings salary. So we need guys that are ball striking well. Just some of the things I'm looking at this week. Ball striking is the main thing. I threw in some scoring stats. Strokes gained approach, strokes gained ball striking are the two main ones. And then I threw in opportunities gained and DK points. And then along with par 4 scoring from the 450 to 500 range. That was kind of the main ones that I'm looking at this week. Kept it pretty simple. Really wanted to be able to really just get the scoring stats in there and not go too far in depth that I'm not looking at that specific thing for my model. It's kind of a week that I want to see just a base across the board who's playing well. I think that'll be a big indicator. Recent form is starting to take a little bit of shape. It was something we had to wait a few weeks to get after this restart. And for most of the players, there's a few exceptions. We're getting a lot of form in here now since everybody's playing multiple weeks in a row. So I think we can draw a pretty good beat off of that and just see where we're going. Before I get into some of my core plays for the week, be sure to check us out over at rotopros.com if you haven't already. Take your free trial. Join us in the Slack. We have a lot of stuff going on. League of Legends still going on with Kenny. Been crushing it over there. We're doing some soccer, MLS, and EPL. EPL's drawing to an end, I believe, Sunday. The massive slate with the final game day is Sunday. So might look to add a couple other leagues depending on what's starting up here. MLS is getting into full swing with their tournament. So got another game going on right now, and then one later tonight at 10:30 Eastern. So be sure to join us over there. Of course, we're going to be adding back MLB, I think, tomorrow night. NASCAR is tomorrow night. Just a big week starting back. NBA will be back soon. So, of course, we'll have all those as soon as they start up. So be sure to join us over there. We got a lot going on, and it's a great time to try us out if you haven't already. So with that, let's go ahead and jump in. Weather is not going to be something I'm looking at this week. If there's a week that I can just cross off looking at weather, it's definitely plus for me because it's just one less thing you've got to look at. And it just looks like basic wind over the 4 days. Nothing to really make a tee time stack or anything like that. So I'm basically just thinking that we're going to see a bunch of scoring and going after guys that can do that for us. So in that top range, you go all the way from Dustin Johnson down to Paul Casey at 10-1. So I mentioned in my article, it's kind of all these guys have question marks. DJ, I don't know what that was last week, coming off the win at the Travelers, his first tournament back, just completely tanked at the Memorial. Brooks, a little bit of a knee injury still. I'm not reading too much into that. He kind of acts like it's nothing to worry about, but on the flip side of that, he's not playing well, and now he's the second highest priced guy. Interesting ownership number on him. I think he's pretty low on. You could get some leverage up here. I'm looking to maybe get a little bit of leverage in the lower ranges. So not really playing Brooks this week, I don't think. I just don't think he can score the way he's going to need to this week, the way he's been playing. So Tony Finau, 10-9. Very interesting. He kind of tailed off on Sunday at the Memorial, but he was playing really well. Early in the week, it was all his putter. The rest of his tee to green game did come around, though. I don't expect him to putt quite as well as he did last week, but this is the type of a course that he can attack in good form now, coming off the layoff. So Finau is a pretty good option there at 10-9. I mean, DJ is very interesting for tournaments. I think all these guys except Brooks are going to be very similar in ownership. So, as I say, just play the guys that you like. I mean, don't get too cute up here. All these guys have the upside, of course, to win. But just play the guys that you have a feel for or are popping in your model. And while I'm going, if you have any questions, be sure to drop them into the chat, and I'll get to them as I go or at the end of this, just talking about the core play. So be sure to just drop them in there. Tommy Fleetwood, this is the guy, hasn't played on tour since the restart. So this is his first one. I think he's going to be playing a few weeks here in a row, gearing up for the PGA championship in a couple weeks. So 10-5 is kind of a tough pill to swallow. He's obviously has the pedigree to be up here this week. You got to think he's been playing. So I'm okay with taking a shot on Tommy. I still think he's going to get owned is the only thing that I would say is downside to him. But 10-5 coming off the layoff, I'm fine with taking a shot on him. Probably my favorite guy is probably going to be the highest owned player of the week, which is considering he burned some people last week, including myself. He's usually in that case, you see some guys go away from him, but 10-1, Paul Casey missed the cut last week, and it was only one hole. I mean, I was irate on Friday morning when I'm waking up. I'm just getting in to the tracking of the round, and I see Paul Casey hits it in the bunker and then sculls it over the water in front of the green, hits it in the water twice, and his week's basically done. He fought back, ended up missing the cut by a couple, I believe. But 10-1, this is the type of course that he can attack and go low. He's a great iron player, great tee to green guy. Not necessarily the best putter, but that's kind of the player I'm targeting this week. So Paul Casey's my favorite up here. Probably followed by Finau at 10-9 and then Fleetwood. And then I'm actually probably going to skip over the top two guys for this week, Dustin and Koepka. I just don't really want to pay the 11-5 and 11-2 with all the question marks they have. You can definitely get some ownership leverage with Brooks, but I'm going Casey, then Finau, then Fleetwood for me. Dropping down into that mid range, this is kind of a interesting range just because of how you see a drop off. As soon as you cross that right around the 10K mark, it just kind of drops off from what you're used to seeing um, in this range. And it's for some people, it's kind of tough to see them price this high, and they might not be able to click the button. But it does look like some of these guys are getting ownership. Um, some of my favorites would be Eric Van Rooyen. I think he's going to be owned, but I'm fine taking a shot on him. He's been playing pretty well. 8,800. He was a guy that we rode early this year. I think it was WGC Mexico, and he came through for us. Doc Redman is another guy, 8,700. Both of those guys are known as tee to green guys that can't putt, and that's exactly what I'm looking for. Again, I'm just kind of, I mean, I don't want to completely say if they can't putt a lick, then they're going to be good this week. But we need guys that are giving themselves opportunities, not trying to scramble around and make 10 to 15 footers for par. It's just not going to do it for you this week. Van Rooyen gained 8.3 strokes on approach at Memorial. That is, and lost 3 putting, finished 22nd. I think that's very good value in this field at 8,800. He's a guy that's been big on the Euro Tour that has always been known for his ball striking and iron play. So definitely going to him. Doc, exact same thing. Is the same reason I like him. He has gained on approach in every event since the restart, with his lowest actually being last week when he missed the cut at Memorial. He gained 2.1 strokes putting in the 2 rounds that he played, and then lost at Fantasy National is where I'm getting these stats. If you look at the difficulty of the course compared to the way he plays and gains strokes, easy courses, he's near one stroke per round to the field on easy courses. He's kind of middle of the road on average difficult courses, and then on difficult courses, he loses over a half a shot per round. And last week we know it was very difficult. He was a guy that played well at Rocket Mortgage for a couple years in a row, which is kind of similar here, just because of how many birdies you have to make, really. And we've seen a lot of crossover if you compare the leaderboards from the 3 events we've had at the Rocket Mortgage and 3M over the last 2 years. So Doc is a good play for me in that mid-range. Going a little chalky there. I just think the top ranges, I'm willing to eat some of this chalk because I think they're the best plays in this field, and I'm going to let people tonight overthink it, get cute, and kind of maybe not click and not go as heavy on some of these guys that they've liked all week, and that's kind of where I'm targeting. Dropping down to that 7K range, I'll continue just on my core plays is really what I'm going over right now. Scott Stallings, 7,600. Man, he checks a lot of boxes for me this week. Been playing pretty well. I think I'm not trying to jinx him by saying this, but I'm pretty sure he's made every cut since the restart. Pulling it up right here just to double check that. Let's see. Yep, he has. 53rd, 48th, 6th, 39th, 58th. Been very solid. He pops for me in my model this week. He ranks 10th in my overall stat model, which is very interesting. I'm willing to take that. He checks a lot of boxes. Ownership-wise, I don't think he's going to get very popular. I'm thinking probably somewhere around 10%. For Stallings, depending on the contest you're in, maybe he's a little higher as the dollar amount goes up in the stakes. But I'm willing to go back to him for sure, and think he can continue that play that he's had. Once I got down into this range, that was one of the biggest things I was looking for. Who has been playing well? since the restart. And that's the top guys, yeah, they can pop at any time. When you get down here, you want to ride some form on some of these guys. So, other plays I like, Richie Warinsky, probably going to be popular, but he's been playing very well since the restart. Um, let's see here. I did mention in the chat that I had a very interesting sleeper, and I'll get to him here in a minute. He's in the 6K range. So I'll get to him in a minute here. Let's see. Bern Wiesberger, I don't know. He's playing okay. He's always a guy that I've thought of as a ball striker. Tee to green guy. Sam Ryder, kind of the same way. He excels on easy courses, and he was 34th here a year ago. So maybe he's there for a play. A lot of guys down here that you can take some shots on. It's kind of like I said, you can kind of mix and match these guys in your lineups. Don't go 100% in 3 lineups on guys down here in this low 7K range. Mix it up, mix and match. These are the most volatile plays that you're going to see during the week. So definitely, these are guys that would usually be in the 6K range. So it still goes for them. You need to mix and match. They're not going to check every box. So go for it. Let's see. Aaron Wise is interesting. He's not been playing well. He had one good round in his last event, the first round, and then I think he just completely blew up, missed the cut at the work day, I think it was. So he's a guy that plays very well on easier courses too. Chase Seifert been playing great since the restart. The only thing that worries me about him is the putter has been carrying a little bit. 6 strokes putting last week when he finished 4th. He was still good tee to green. He came almost 4 on approach. He's gained on approach in every event. He's only played 2 events since the restart, but early this year as well, he has gained on approach all the way back to November, every event he's played. But that 6.8 strokes putting was a definite outlier. So I wouldn't play him expecting maybe a top 4 or anything, but he's a fine play just to ride the form as well. So let's drop into that 6K range. This is where it gets pretty interesting to me. There's a couple guys that I think we can play to be able to either go heavy on that mid-range 8 and 9Ks and then throw one in from down here, or you can maybe even jam 2 guys in the 10K range in. A lot you can do up top with one of these 6K guys. So my sleeper this week, he's a guy that I rode a lot here. I think it was 2 years ago. He had a great summer, and he checks a lot of boxes for me. And it's Bronson Burgoon. Pretty down in price, 6,600. He's not been playing very great. He made the cut at the work day, but finished 61st there. What checks the boxes for me, bent grass greens, is his best putting surface. He's another guy that excels on easy courses. If you think back to the John Deere Classic, is one that he's played well at. He gains over 0.6 strokes per round to the field on easy courses. He loses strokes on average to average and difficult courses on both of those. He was basically flat on approach last week, where what killed him was, or a couple weeks ago at the workday, it was at Muirfield, but a couple weeks ago on the easier setup, he lost 4 around the greens. He's a guy that you want to, if he's on approach, he can go low for sure. He might be a guy that you look at in a round 1 showdown. He's usually good in that first round. He can go low, 7, 8 under if he's on. And then you just hope he holds on for the rest of the week. So he's kind of steadily improved since the restart, I would say. He had a pretty good outing, 38th at the Charles Schwab. He missed the cut in his next 3 events, but you could see a little bit of progress from there. He lost strokes on approach at the Travelers and the RBC Heritage, and then he gained almost 2 through the 2 rounds at Rocket Mortgage. Missed the cut there, and then he ended up making the cut at the Workday. Another thing that checks the box for me at 6,600. I mean, he was 34th here a year ago, and that just kind of fits the easier course narrative. You just see he plays well at these type courses. I think he was coming off an injury. He had an injury right before the PGA Tour shut things down. And I think he might be getting back to feeling some better. So he's a guy at 6,600 I'm definitely willing to take a shot on. Other guys I like down here below 7K, Chesson Hadley, 6,900. He was awful here last year, but he has been playing. He's a guy that's been playing really well. I believe he has not missed a cut since the restart either. And I'm not trying to jinx these guys if that's what you all are thinking, but he has missed a cut. He missed the Rocket Mortgage, but the other events, he's made 3 of 4 cuts, and in all those events, he's gained 4.1, 2.6, 3.2 on approach. Had a 23rd in his first event back at the Charles Schwab, so 6,900 is a steal for him. Let's see here. Neesmith's a guy that we've been riding, but he's a fade for me with the form that he's had. Last 3 events, he's missed the cut pretty badly the last few events. Keith Mitchell, he's a kind of a guy that you think of on easier courses as well. Let's see. All right. A guy who popped in my model, I'm not big on him, but I do want to mention him because he popped for me in just some of the stats that he has. Cameron Percy, and maybe he's popping for everybody. I don't know. You all can let me know, but he's just a guy that kind of his iron play is good. I think what's making him pop in some of these models is his event at the Farmers in January. And that's still coming into it. He had gained 7.6 strokes on approach. But if you look since the restart, he's missed the cut in both events. But what's killed him has been off the tee. But he's gained nearly 2.5, 3 strokes on approach in both the events since the restart. Kind of just getting back to play. He's a guy that might take a flyer on, especially in like a 20 max type build. So I got some questions here. I'll go over. Shank Pro Reactor is asking about Shank. Haven't really looked into Shank. He wasn't popping much for me, but he was a guy I think last year we were playing. He was great tee to green. Let's see here. Yeah, he's played 5 events since the restart. Where he's been gaining his strokes is off the tee. Which kind of, I mean, that translates to ball striking as well. If you're just okay on approach, but you're getting in great position off the tee, you can still create birdie opportunities. So, yeah, I mean, he's worth a flyer there for sure. 30th, 39th, last 2 outings. He's a guy that's really shown improvement. Lost 6.5 strokes on approach when he missed the cut at the RBC Heritage, but since then it has really turned it around. So, yeah, I'm definitely fine with some Shank. Let's see here. Luke List. So he's priced up a little bit this week in the mid 8Ks, I believe. Let's see. Yeah, 8,400. He does. I mean, he's 16th in my model this week. He's not a guy that I'm just running to play. I think some of the guys around him are better plays for me, but he's definitely one of those guys that can make birdies with the best of them when he's on. 10th at Memorial is pretty really good for him. I mean, he's a guy that I think of as an easy course player. But if you look at it, he actually gains a lot of strokes on or over a half a stroke around on difficult courses and not quite as much on easy courses. Bent looks to be his worst putting surface, but that with Luke List, that does not matter to me at all. He's not a good putter. So he does fit the bill. He's not my favorite in that range. Like I said, I'm more on the Van Rooyen, Redmond type plays, but Luke List is fine for me. And what is his ownership compared to those guys? He's looking around 10%. Van Rooyen and Doc are looking closer to 20. So, yeah, if you want to gain some leverage, I'm fine with that. It's not personally where I'm going, but I'm definitely fine taking a shot on Luke List this week. Brian Harmon, I don't. Casey was first. Matt Wolf. Man, he popped a couple weeks ago. I think he's a fade for me. I don't know. He kind of benefits coming back here that there's not as much hoopla around the event with fans, or maybe not as many media obligations, I would say. And he looks to be mid-teens in ownership. 9,700. I just am not going there this week. I like paying 400 more for Paul Casey, or a little bit more for Fleetwood and Finau, or just dropping down to that high 8K range is where I'm going this week. So I'm not on Wolf, but he's a guy that he does not play tough courses well. So he definitely fits the bill if you want to target course history and the easy course narrative that I'm kind of keep hyping up. Brian Harmon, he's definitely 8,000 is interesting for the type of player that he is. I don't see him as a guy that can shoot maybe the 20 to 25 under, but I mean, maybe I'm wrong there. Let's see. Yeah, Harmon's just not for me. He started okay when he came back. He doesn't really pop in my model at all this week, to be honest. He's missed 3 cuts in a row. He was bad last week on approach, lost 3.5 strokes on approach at the Memorial, and hasn't putted good either at Rocket Mortgage or the Travelers. So he's not for me this week. Definitely like some other guys that have a little bit more scoring upside is where I'm going. Any more questions? Be sure to just drop them in here. I'll hang around a bit longer, and then I'll let you all get to building. We got a big week ahead of us. A lot going on even besides golf, so it's going to be a fun week to sweat multiple sports at once again. Awesome to finally have some mainstream sports coming back, I guess. We've had a lot of guys trying new sports with RotoPros, as well as you can tell across the industry. We've had a lot more people jump into golf. I think that's been really good for the product. So I think it's really helped out the fantasy sports industry as a whole, getting more eyes on. I mean, if you look at League of Legends, I mean, that is just crazy what we keep seeing these prize pools for that. Soccer as well. So, yeah, Burns. He looks to be popular, but he's a guy that, like, if I was playing cash games like Chris definitely does. I don't play as much cash, but he would definitely be a guy in cash games that I would be going to. He seems like a pretty safe option. I might end up there if I can fit 3 8K guys in my lineup. Burns has been very good. Maybe he was the guy that I was thinking of earlier when I said that Hadley had not missed a cut. No, he missed his first event back, but man, yeah, work at the workday game, almost 5 on approach, 17th. Yeah, I'm good with Burns this week. The only thing that worries me is ownership, and I'm looking probably near 15%. I would think. Maybe I'm not 100% sure on that. Maybe a little low, depending on the contest size. He's been fairly popular, I think, over the last few weeks. Am I right on that? I feel like he's been popular. No, he's not. I'm completely off on that. He's been sub 10%, and sub 5% in a couple tournaments. But maybe I just feel like he's getting a little bit of more buzz this week, and I'm thinking that. But Burns he would be probably ranked third for me in that 8K range behind Doc and Van Ruyen. So yeah, 8,500 is a lot of step up in price, but as we say, it's definitely not something you worry about. When they've stepped up in price, you just don't. It's this week. You don't need to be looking at that. You need to. It's all relative to the field. So, what 6 guys do you think are playing the best that you can fit in your lineup? That's how you need to do it, and not just think about a guy as a value or overpriced. Um, all right. So, any more questions? I'm going to give my one and done. I know Chris was asking for that. Fade him. But hey, I'm going to take a victory lap this week because I finally hit a winner in one and done. John Rahm last week picked up the win, got me off the schneid. I was just plumb down near the bottom of the Gups corner, one and done for weeks. So finally, not at the very bottom, but I'm getting. Yeah, that's pretty awesome, right? But I might catch everybody that's in there by the end of the year, but I doubt it. I burned a couple guys as well early this year, but this week I'm going completely make sure that I would not use them the rest of the year. And the reason for that for me is because, like I said, I'm not in the running for the overall. At least I don't think, unless I hit like 8 winners in a row, which is not going to happen. I'm not in the running, I don't think, for the overall season. So there, I'm kind of. This is the last one of the second segment. It's not a major event, so it's not for that segment. It's just kind of I want to waste a guy this week that I'm not going to play for the rest of the year, and save all the better players for the third segment, the fourth one, and the major segment. So where I'm going this week is definitely down in the 8K range. And maybe some guys have used him, maybe some haven't. Maybe he's chalky, maybe he's not. But Doc Redman, for me, I don't see me using him anymore this year. Maybe I would use him in the fall, but I'm fine with the way he's playing. I'm going to go with Doc this week. He checks a lot of boxes for me. He's one of my favorites of the week, and at 8,700 in this type of field, I think he has the best opportunity that he has the rest of the year. Unless one of these fall events, he has a easier field to play in. But I'm going with Doc Redman this week for my one and done. Like I said, it's all strategy. If you're been doing really well this year and you're in the running for this segment, especially, I would burn a guy this week. I would go up top, maybe to a guy like Finau. Finau would be my probably a top option for a one and done for me up there. He has a lot of upside. He's playing well, and if you're in the running for a this segment, that's where I would go. If you're kind of done with this segment, but you have kind of you're okay. You were good first segment, and you look okay for the rest of the year. You're still in the running for that top spot. That's kind of when I would actually save all the guys that are on DK 10K and above, and go in the 8 and 9K range, kind of like with a Doc. I would use the same strategy if you're looking long term. So Doc Redman is the one and done for me this week. Finau, I did see something about Finau changing his caddy. I think it was on Twitter earlier. To me, that just doesn't move the needle for me. I just don't see changing a caddy as making him a better play or a worse play. If anything, it's going to take him maybe a couple days to get used to it. Maybe just the dynamic that they have, but it's not something. If you like Finau, don't fade him because of that. And if you're not on Finau, don't get on him because you think this is going to help him. That's where I'm at with Finau. So any last questions? I'm going to hop off here. We got some MLS lineups to get ready. So like I said, be sure to join us. We got a 10:30 showdown for MLS. Got the sheet up. Getting ready to get lineups any minute now, I would think. MLS is a little slow on getting lineups out, but we've been crushing it over in the Slack. A lot of guys have just been on fire with MLS and EPL. So definitely be sure to hop over, join us, make some lineups tonight for golf. Going to be a fun week. I mean, we got a lot of birdies. It's an interesting time on the tour. We have next week the WGC, another big boy field, and then the PGA Championship, first major of the year in July or August, I guess, actually. So going to be an interesting fall, even winter if you're looking at it, I guess, for the Masters. So big time few weeks for golf. This is kind of a little boy field if you want to look at it that way, I guess, but still some big names here. Going to be an interesting week. So hop on over, join us, talk some golf in the chat, and we will see you next week for the WGC. So good luck, everybody. Let's turn on some green screens and take one home this week. Good luck.